What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and yes, I am wearing a Rowlet hoodie, a Pikachu t-shirt, and an Ash Ketchum hat. My son had his 5th birthday today, and it was Pokemon themed, so I did my best to represent one of my favorite franchises during the party. That being said, let's continue on our Tal'Dorei Campaign Reborn videos. I was going to do another comparison video, but I thought it would be nice to juxtaposition to... We covered the Blood Domain Cleric, one that had a comparison to an older version, and I thought, why don't we just knock out the rest of the Clerics and do the Moon Domain Cleric? I think that the Moon Domain, in theory, and now I'll be honest with you, I read it very quickly, and I have not read it since. So this is kind of almost going to be like a first impression as we go through it. I do believe that we do have need for a sort of sun and moon, again, not Pokemon themed joke, but here we are, deities or domains. Now I know we have a light domain, which has a lot of fiery aspects to it, and we have a twilight domain, which is kind of nightimey-ish, but I feel like moon is kind of set alone, and there is often a god of the moon, or god, goddesses, whatever, multiple of the moon in most pantheons, so having that be separated from something like Twilight, to me, makes sense. So, let's get to the review. Alright, sorry, I couldn't resist. Alright, so here we go. Here is the Tal'Dorei Campaign Guide Reborn. We're looking at the Moon Domain Cleric. If you know anything about the world of Exandria, there is 2 moons, so moon's kind of I guess a binary moon rise, sunset, whatever. Anyway, let's look at the domain spells. Fairy Fire, Silent Image, Invisibility, Moonbeam, Hypnotic Pattern, Major Image, Greater Invisibility, Hallucinatory Terrain, Dream, and Passwall. These come across very trickery domain to me in my head, and I don't remember what all those spells are in the trickery domain or the Twilight domain, but I'm okay with all of these spell choices. These kind of, at least in my own head canon, makes sense to what a moon deity would have. Obviously, Moonbeam being probably one of the most important. Silent Image, this seems like they're going for a lot of illusions, right? We have things like Silent Image, Hypnotic Pattern, Hallucinatory Terrain, so I get this sort of evocation of illusionary imagery here. Also, a very solid set of spells. Getting Fairy Fire on a Cleric is always nice. Invisibility, also always a good spell to have. Moonbeam, great, and also Greater Invisibility. And Passwall is honestly one of my favorite spells. It might not be something you use constantly, but if you have it, and you can have it always prepared, you'll never be upset to have Passwall in your arsenal. Who doesn't want to just make a door where there wasn't one in whatever structure you're in? And you could essentially chain it to do a tunnel through whatever situation you're in and make your way out. All right, so Ruidus and I think Katha are the names of the 2 moons of Exandria. So that's where you'll see Katha and you'll see Ruidus as we kind of move through this. So Clarity of Katha is your first level ability here. When a creature within 30 feet of you that you can see makes a wisdom saving throw, you can use your reaction to grant that creature advantage on the save. You can use this feature proficiency bonus times per long rest. So we can see that this is a new subclass, and as such, we are seeing sort of new mechanics that we expect from 5th edition, things like the proficiency bonus times per long rest. That seems to be where Wizards of the Coast is going. Also, let me know if you're interested in a future video, just kind of discussion-based, because it does seem like Wizards of the Coast may be ditching short rests entirely, as most mechanics, now that we've seen 4 new subclasses and things that they're releasing, ditch the use of short rest recharge and go with proficiency bonus times per long rest. And when a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes a wisdom saving throw, you use your reaction to grant advantage. This seems, again, it's called Clarity. This seems to be the anti-illusion. It's okay. It's a good ability. You're never going to be sad to have it, but it's so... I mean, wisdom saving throws do come up quite often, and if you've watched Critical Role campaigns, Matt Mercer does enjoy throwing wisdom saving throws at his party pretty frequently, so that kind of makes sense to me that a sort of a one that he's designed is kind of an antithesis to that, but it's very shallow in its focus, and unfortunately, that's all you get at first level. That seems a little weak in my opinion, and I'll tell you why. Because we've seen, and whether right or wrong, we've seen things like the Twilight Domain and the Peace Domain make it official from Wizards of the Coast, and they give you pretty powerful first level abilities in addition to something else. Now, I wouldn't say I need anything crazy, maybe skill proficiency or weapon proficiency. This seems to be more of a castery kind, so perhaps proficiency in something like deception or insight or something like that to go with the sort of lying illusionary side or the sort of clarity detecting the lie side, or maybe both. I think that would be something just a little bit extra for first level. One thing I will say that I have seen brought up in the past is technically you have to also, I don't know if people really balance around this, and I don't think that's normally taken into account too much when people balance, in the 5th edition anyway, but the strength of something for a 1-level dip can be pretty ridiculous when you look at things comparatively. That was one thing I saw as a sort of a criticism for the blood domain. This bloodletting focus, now people did remind me that it was nerfed to be only when the duration is instantaneous, but it is not limited to cleric spells. It's when you cast a damage dealing spell. So potentially being any class and then 1 level dipping into this blood domain cleric would get you pretty powerful abilities. Whereas here with the Moon Domain, not too much. All right, at 2nd level, you get your Channel Divinity, as all clerics do, and this is called Blessing of the Full Moon. As an action, you instill a willing creature of your choice within 30 feet, one of the following benefits. Blessing of the Watchful Moon, for 1 hour, their speed increases by 10 feet, and they have advantage on perception or survival checks using wisdom, involving smell or made to track a creature. I guess sort of lycanthropic moon, werewolf kind of a situation. And Blessing of the Blood-Drenched Moon. For 10 minutes, the blessed creature has advantage on attack rolls against a target if at least one of the blessed allies is within 5 feet of the target ally and isn't incapacitated. The first one, situational but useful. The second one, very powerful, especially if you can throw this on a rogue so they can get one. Well, they would be getting, I guess, sneak attack if they had an ally within 5 feet, but now they're also getting advantage, potentially given the option to fish for crits. Same thing with using something like Paladin as well. At 6th level, we get Mind of Two Moons, another Channel Divinity usage. By expending 1 use of your Channel Divinity, you can cast a 2nd concentration spell while already concentrating on a 1st spell, as long as both spells are on your list of Moon Domain spells. So we do have a fair amount of concentration spells on here, and I'm sure that was taken into consideration. Just going off the top of my head, I can see Fairy Fire. I'm not sure about Silent Image, but Invisibility, Moonbeam, I believe Major Image, and Hypnotic Pattern. Greater Invisibility. Several of these are all concentration spells. So typically we don't like to see things that allow you to cast multiple concentration spells at the same time, but the limited scope of this to only these 10 spells, I think does a service for it. And again, just it will be the ability to cast Invisibility while keeping something like Moonbeam or something like that up. But I bet you guys will tell me of some other better version. I guess you could cast Invisibility on your allies and Greater Invisibility on yourself. That could be pretty strong. If you need to make a Constitution saving throw to maintain your concentration on both spells, you make the save with disadvantage, and on a failure, you lose concentration on both spells. And I think that actually does even it out pretty well from a game balance standpoint, right? We're allowing you to concentrate on 2 spells, but concentration checks are made at disadvantage because your brain is literally trying to focus on 2 powerful pieces of magic at the same time. That's going to take a lot of your focus, so trying to concentrate will be even more difficult. And the benefit of if you lose concentration on one and fail here, you lose it both. So I think that's the trade-off. You're potentially losing 2 spells in one shot, but reminder that if you're able to somehow set this up ahead of time, you could have 2 concentration spells up and still be casting non-concentration spells in the meantime. So there you go. Empowered cantrips, kind of as I said, it seems like a castery cleric, so therefore it has wisdom modifier damage to cleric cantrips that you cast. And then at 17, we have Eclipse of Ill Omen. Let's see. As a bonus action, you can manifest an area of reddish dim light in a 60-foot radius around you. In addition to the normal effects of dim light, creatures in the area make saving throws with disadvantage. Now, I will say, it says when you create this eclipse, you can choose any number of creatures that are unaffected by it. That's fine. I think that wording is a little clunky, just a little nitpick here. I would say, as a bonus action, you can manifest an area of reddish dim light in 60-foot radius around you. Creatures of your choice, in addition to the normal effects of dim light, creatures of your choice within the area make saving throws with disadvantage. I think that makes it a little simpler and easier to read. It's just creatures of your choice. So if you don't choose anybody, everybody's affected. Then they added this again. When you create it, you can choose any number of creatures unaffected. Same thing. I just think the wording I mentioned is a little cleaner. And then additionally, this eclipse lasts while you concentrate, as if concentrating on a spell, for up to 1 minute. So it does count like that. And concentrating on this feature counts as concentrating on a moon domain spell for the purpose of your Mind of Two Moons feature. So this is nice to see it playing off the previous feature. You can cast the Eclipse of Ill Omen, giving creatures of your choice disadvantage on saving throws to allow you to then possibly hit them with some illusion or moonbeam or what have you. But that's not all. It says, additionally, once per turn when you deal radiant damage to any creature within the area of dim light, you can curse one of those creatures until the eclipse ends, as no action required. A creature cursed in this way has its speed halved and can't regain hit points. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So again, probably looking at this, you might want to do something like Eclipse of Ill Omen to give disadvantage, or maybe drop a high-level Moonbeam, which does radiant damage, therefore giving people disadvantage on the saving throw against the Moonbeam, and then also causing it to have their speed and have them not be able to regain hit points while that's happening, at least the one particular creature that you curse. I also am very, I originally was thinking that maybe this would be, you could do second concentration with any spell as long as one of them was on your Moon Domain spell list. But seeing that both have to be on the Moon Domain spell list, I think that this works out relatively balanced, I'd say. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Again, the first level feature, situational but useful. I would love to have seen like a little extra thing with skill proficiencies. The Channel Divinity at second level has a nice out-of-combat utility using in the Blessing of the Watchful Moon, and again, a pretty powerful thing in the Blessing of the Blood-Drenched Moon. However, none of these count as concentration, and it doesn't say, as an action, you still a willing creature with one of the blessings of your choice. It also doesn't say if you use it again, it ends the previous one. So in theory, when you get to a point where you have multiple Channel Divinities, you could, as far as I can tell, use Blessing of the Blood-Drenched Moon twice, I think at 6th level, and hit 2 different people, potentially picking 2 people who are within 5 feet of one another, giving both of them advantage on attack rolls against a target. So that could be pretty powerful. But again, it is a Channel Divinity, but reminder, Channel Divinities come back on a short rest. So you could potentially abuse this depending on short rest mechanics in your party. Blessing of the Mind of Two Moons. I like it because it's not, you don't really have one damaging spell on here in the form of Moonbeam, but you can obviously do a lot about shutting down a combat or enemies entirely by using things like Hypnotic Pattern or Hallucinatory Terrain, confusing people with illusions, things of that nature. And again, I like the balancing features of Mind of Two Moons. And then I like that Eclipse of Ill Omen works with Mind of Two Moons, giving disadvantage on saving throws for creatures of your choice. Now, as a reminder, you could potentially just use Eclipse of Ill Omen and then not use it as part of Mind of Two Moons and then hit them with other instantaneous or, non-concentration spells that potentially will do damage and then possibly, something like a Flame Strike, right, is a saving throw, but it's for damage, so they could make that save at disadvantage, and you don't have to worry about using only things listed on the Moon Domain list for, activating Mind of Two Moons. And then again, I like the concept of, the speed is halved and can't regain hit points. It is only once per turn, and it says, it's once per turn when you deal radiant damage to any creatures. You can curse one of them. So it's not like you could drop a Moonbeam on somebody with disadvantage and hit a whole group of people and all of them can't regain hit points and have their speed halved. It's just one. But that does allow you to make priority decisions in a combat. So I think overall, I would say the Moon Domain, I would consider it to be relatively balanced overall. I think it has a place at the table. I just think potentially there's better clerics out there for you to use. I continue to cite Peace Domain as one of the best clerics out there. Kind of playing one currently. It is exceptionally strong. But you know what? That's a support-based cleric. This is something a little bit different. So depending on, what kind of role your cleric is putting in the party, it could be right up your alley. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you feel about the Moon Domain Cleric? Is it something you think you'd want to use in your campaign? Is there something they could change or things that you would tweak or alter? Am I way off base and it's super unbalanced? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And lastly, before I go, I forget to talk about subscribing to the channel, so I'll throw that out there. But I've been very much enjoying the Legends of Vox Machina animated series. As someone who grew up, I say grew up, it was only a couple years ago, that's a poor choice of words. As someone who watched Campaign 1 of Vox Machina pretty much more or less from the onset, or at least relatively early on, and actually did watch all of the stuff that we're seeing in the Legend of Vox Machina animated series live when those things happened, and followed that campaign all the way through to the end, I'm very much enjoying the animated series, and I know that people have feelings about stuff, as they always do, but I was wondering, would you be interested in me doing a review of that animated series? Now, obviously, I can't really do too much with showing the footage of it, but I can talk about it, and I realize I don't really review, obviously, TV shows and movies here on the channel. That's not a thing that I do. I do enjoy doing those kinds of things, and I watch a lot of TV and movie review channels myself. But we're halfway through, basically. We have 6 episodes have already aired. More are coming out every Friday. And I was thinking about possibly doing sort of like a mid, if you will, season review of it so far, and then maybe continue on after with the other episodes. And I was curious to see your thoughts. So let me know if you want that from me in the near future, and I will see you all next time.